Thank you for joining me on the Get What You Want podcast, where getting what you want isn't always what you think it is. My wish for you is that this show will create an awareness within yourself of what you really want and the possibility of getting it. Let's go create. My guest today is Sidonie Smith. Sidonie is an in-demand, internationally stage actress, vocalist, and violinist. The multilingual leading lady has starred in hit musicals such as Sister Act, Jekyll and Hyde, and Jesus Christ Superstar the world over for the past decade. Offstage, Sid is most proud of her work as a mindset mastery coach for other theater artists, supporting them practically in their pursuits to become the strongest versions of themselves, mind, spirit, and body. Welcome, Sidonie. Sidonie, I love your name and I keep getting it wrong, so sorry.
No problem. Thank you so much for having me.
I met you via Instagram. I don't even remember where it started, but somehow we introduced ourselves, and then you started speaking to me through voice record instead of texting back and forth. And I was like, oh my gosh, I love her voice. I need to know more about her. And so I think we were talking about travel. I was getting ready to go to Ireland.
Oh, yeah.
We had just kind of discussed, because you perform all over the world. So you've lived all over the world, you performed all over the world. And one of the things that you had said was that voice recording was way easier for you than writing and texting. And so we started having that conversation back. And I have to say, I was a little more nervous about doing a voice record with you than texting. So I want you to tell me how you got to where you are right now, and then we're going to talk about stage fright today. I'm super excited about that. So just tell me about Sidonie. Who is she? You know, where did you come from? I know you're in Berlin right now, so just like, wow, you're awesome.
Well, thank you so much. First of all, that intro made me very happy. I'm actually from Miami, Florida. I'm an American girl. My mom is from Jamaica, so I have an immigrant family, and we grew up knowing that kids should play an instrument. Like that was her deal. My mom's not a musician, but she just thought every kid should play an instrument. And so we kind of dabbled with piano, and I didn't practice, so we moved on from there. But I had the joy of going to performing arts schools my whole life. And so even though I wasn't doing theater, I was in like the music scene, because we started with music theory and all of that stuff when I was 7. And I ended up going to college to study viola at the university level. Viola is an alto version of a violin. So in the string family, it's the alto voice. So yeah, I'm a classical musician, but there was a moment where I just had like a light bulb, like that moment of knowing that I needed to do something else with my life. And I knew it was theater. Didn't know what it was going to look like or if it would work. But the inside of me knew that there was a change to come, and I went for it, even though I was a super shy kid. That's why I didn't do theater when I was small. My mom was like, you're too shy for that. I don't need you crying when you don't get a part. That's not what we're doing. You play this violin, okay? I went on a journey of finding my own bravery, and I was surprised at how much was already there, actually. And I've just come to love my introversion, because it's different from being shy. I feel like I grew out of being shy. I decided that I was brave. I'm an introvert, but I'm really brave. And so I started taking acting classes, which you have to be brave to do, because you make a fool of yourself often. And I got a really great opportunity to go to a conservatory in Germany, where there's a huge musical theater, a huge Broadway scene over in Europe I didn't even know. But that door opened and I walked right through it. And after spending 2 semesters in the conservatory, I started my first contract, and I've been working in Europe ever since. That's been 10-ish years.
Wow, it's amazing, because I've seen little snippets of all of your shows, or some of your shows, and the audiences are ridiculously large. Like they zoom back and it's just the biggest theater I've ever seen. So I have a son who's 16, and he has always been super shy, and he's also a musician, and he started theater last year, and he wouldn't tell us, like he wouldn't practice his lines in front of us. He wouldn't say anything to us at home about it. he just said, you'll just come. And he was Linus in You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown. So it was a very large part. And I literally cried through half of the play because I could not believe what came out on stage.
I'm going to cry. Oh my
It's
gosh.
super dear to my heart to hear you, because to watch him go from this kind of socially awkward, shy kid to when he steps on stage, he just explodes. And he's so good at it, and he's so beautiful. And so I feel like I'm hearing like the same thing over, because he's an introvert, but you put him on a stage and he's an extrovert, or appears to be that. So
let me tell you, I have my life dream is to work with children who want to do theater but feel too shy. I am working on a project right now that's online based, but I really want to, once we're allowed to go outside every day, I want to get in the trenches, because kids who are introverted can do theater. They're not actually at a disadvantage. It's a superpower. He's probably way more intuitive than he even realizes, and he's got the powers of listening, which makes such a great actor. You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown is my favorite musical, by the way.
Yes. We're not allowed to report it, but I snuck some, and so I'll have to send to you. But yeah, just to see him have an outlet to be able to just be funny and crazy, and he waltzed with his blanket. He's also a ballroom dancer, so he gets on stage and like something just comes out. And anyway, it's just been, so theater's super close to me. I took drama, and I've always been fine off stage, but put me on a stage or in front of a mic or on a camera, and I'm like, so I'm the opposite. And my son, his name's Saber, he keeps saying, Mom, you just gotta do it. Like, just let go. That's the one place you can be. And so for him, that's the place where he can be himself, or he can be something else. And I'm super interested in what you're doing. So I want to talk more about that at the end, because that would be something that I would be interested in having him learn from you. So I love it. I love it.
That's so exciting. The day that I realized that my introversion was my superpower, I just had the biggest epiphany, because a lot of the people that we look up to as fine actors and actresses are actually introverts.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean that we don't have the same energy that we can't give. It just means that, when it's all said and done, we probably want to go read a book somewhere and be by ourselves to kind of like recharge. But introverts really rock on stage. They really do.
Well, I think it's funny that you said that. I read this whole thing about it, because I remember, this same son, freshman year, I think he was in choir, because he didn't want to he had played instruments. So I always had my kids do 2 years of an instrument or music, some sort of music, just to, give them that broad kind of spectrum. Anyway, so I remember going to a parent-teacher conference, and I was so worried about him, because he didn't have a ton of friends outside of the house. He loved being in his room. He was super quiet. And I brought up this concern with his teachers, and his choir teacher said to me, have you ever thought that maybe Saber loves being alone? Like, maybe he just enjoys it, and that he's an introvert, and that's okay. And I think being an extrovert, I've always thought of introverts as something not right. And so I studied introversion and realized that, like, you're right, some of the most amazing people in the world are introverts. And it's actually a superpower, like you say. It's not a negative, it's just two different kinds of people, right? And so it's just, I don't know, I've really been studying a lot, and I think it's pretty awesome that the world is looking at introverts as something different and special and beautiful. And it really is. Like, I feel like all the very smart people I know are like that. Some of us have to make up for all of that by outwardly being excited and being in the world. And I see Saber as just perfectly happy and content with being alone, being in his room, reading books, playing the computer, whatever. And then when he steps on stage, it's something else. So
it really is magical. I think you're an amazing mom for researching and finding out, because for years and years, that was kind of the general thought, that people who are introverted, it wasn't quite right, and they need to be brought out of their shell, or maybe there's something missing. And that's really not the case, especially when you see how it's just two sides of the same coin, because I'm never putting down my extroverted brothers and sisters out there. I think that we're all amazing and we have so much to give. But I do remember trying to fit into the extroverted shoes of my friends and relatives, and it just didn't fit. The shoes they just didn't fit. They were like too narrow or too big, or it wasn't for me. And my mom says the same thing. Like, I have been performing for 11 years now over here, and she's always like, you're really funny. Like, I didn't know you were funny. I'm like, Mom. It's like, I still can't believe you like talk to people on stage. It's crazy. I'm like, yeah, it's what I do for a living.
I get your mom. It's so funny. My other children are athletes and singers, like they just have always been out. So it was just fun to actually show up at that play. And I loved kind of that he just kept that from me, because he was just like, no way, Mom, you're not going to see any of it until that day, because he was so shy to do it at home. And so what a funny thing that he did that, because what a surprise it was. So, and I want to talk a little bit about stage fright, because I know that you are a coach and you help people to master that. Mm-hmm. I have stage fright. Like, I really do. I get up on a stage and it's so hard for me to speak. But I do that for a living, right? So I speak, I am an author, I have my podcast, I teach people, I'm creating an online course, like all of these things that have me have to be in front of a camera. And right before I get on, every single time, I'm just overcome with fear. And sometimes I think too much. And if I'm not like just being myself, I just mess up, because of the fear kind of takes over that. And so I want you to speak into that a little bit, if you can.
Happily.
Yeah, go. Just let me know.
It's one of the areas that I spent a lot of time studying myself and how I tick, and talking with people, especially in the industry. But I was telling you before we started recording is that when I started talking about stage fright on social media, the feedback was not just from performers. It was not just from public speakers and people who have podcasts. It was from everybody, especially because so many people have brought their businesses online right now, and they're getting on Zoom and they are sweating. Yeah. And I get it, because at the end of the day, I am not shy anymore. I'm trying not to ever live in fear, but I'm still the same human. And so actually, before we got on, I did a little video and I was like, okay, guys, this is my stage fright stuff in action. I am so nervous. I'm about to go on a podcast interview. And so let me take you through what I'm going to do. I was breathing really, really consciously. And one of the things that works for me so well is visualizing the end. So I started to think about, you know what? I get to call my publicist and say, we had the best conversation ever. We connected right away. We had so much fun. I always knew what I wanted to say. And we totally identified with them. I started to just visualize the conversation I'm going to have when it's all done. And I'm going to watch The Crown and be so happy that it went so well. I use this on stage as well. And that's so funny that we connected right away, because I put myself in the energy of relief and joy rather than anticipation and anxiety and fear. I do this on stage too. I did a show called The Bodyguard for 3 years, and that's based on the movie by that Whitney Houston starred in. And that show, a lot of shows start in an intimidating way, but this show, I'm in the rafter, so I would guess 30 or 40 feet above the audience before the show. I can hear them, but I can't see them. I can kind of look down and see my castmates who are not nervous, kind of like buzzing around. I'm like, oh, okay. And so when the curtain opens, it's this big, like bombastic Beyonce-inspired opening. When the curtain opens, I fly in, and then I go down the tiniest set of stairs ever in super high heels, and then I start the show where I have 14 Whitney Houston songs to do. It's really quite intimidating. So when I was up in the sky like a little bird, waiting for the thing to start and hearing everybody, kind of waiting to see something great, and I was like, wait a minute, that's something great. It's got to be me. Holy crap, that's my job. All right. I was imagining the end. I was putting myself in my finale gown, not because I want to wish it away, but because I want to get in that energy of, not only did it go well, but I had a great time. If I was focusing on something like maybe it was enunciation in a particular song, I think, oh, that went really well. Um, uh, and I actually, not only do I imagine the end, is I kind of put a little bit of, I'm going to call it choreography, but it's almost like adding a line that I just say in my head. That first big number is called Queen of the Night. It's in the movie too, and it is huge. Like, it is like pyro, fire, dancers popping up from under the stage into, like, it's really insane. And I remember there's a moment where I was halfway through, and every single time I would sing sing a certain note, and I knew I would turn up stage with all of this attitude, and in my mind I go, this is going really well. And it was almost part of the song for me.
Wow.
I would never say it out loud, but it was part of the song. No matter how I felt about my performance, I would sing, oh yeah, this is going really well. What happened in my head every single time. I was taking myself out to do the rest of the show, because honestly, the little things that I might have picked at about the first 5 minutes of my performance,
Mhm.
nobody saw them, but they would, if I focused on them, they would see me falling apart for the rest of the 3 hours. So that is some of the stuff that I really, really love. And it really, so much of it is about getting to know yourself. What I've been talking about a lot on social media today is asking yourself the question of why and when.
Mm.
So, for example, if you are about to deliver a speech, in your case, and you know you're feeling nervous because whatever signs that happen for you, my jaw quivers when I'm nervous. I start to feel really cold, and then my jaw quivers more. Whenever the signs, whatever your signs are, start to come up, start to ask yourself why you're afraid. Because sometimes it's such a small thing, and once you analyze it, you can kind of squish it like a bug. It could be that a certain person is watching today. It could be that you feel like, oh, I'm gonna mess this up. Oh, I feel like I failed at this before. Or it could be that you don't like your outfit. It could be something so small that you're like, you know what? If I changed my shoes, I'd feel better because I'm nervous about tripping up these stairs. Sometimes it's a really tiny thing. So if you ask yourself why, um, even if you can't fix it in that moment, it's something that you can kind of like squish down and place in your hand and take a look at it and go, okay, now that I know what's bothering me, now that I know what about this I'm afraid of, I can make a plan as to how to take care of it. Um, and the second question I always ask myself is when. So is it right before the show? Is it right before a certain number? Is it before I have to pronounce a really exotic name like Sidonie? When does it come up for me? Because that also kind of makes the fear smaller, makes it more compact. So you can kind of, rather than being overwhelmed by it, know that you're bigger than it, and you're taking a look at it like, okay, I'm about to break you down. And even if it doesn't work the first time, you still have seen it for what it is. It's something much smaller than you. You are much greater than it.
So it's awareness. It's
Mhm,
really just being aware. I,
mhm.
I awareness is like my favorite thing ever, because it seems like you say once you're aware of whatever it is, it just
Mhm.
becomes smaller.
Yeah, it really does. And it's, you know, I have tried all kinds of things that work for me, but the awareness is my favorite because in the in the mindset work that I do, I love to encourage people to see their greatness. We are just so expansive and so huge. We are so powerful, and much more so than we even recognize. And if we can make the things that try to conquer us as tiny as they actually are, man, oh man, oh man, that really, to me, just that's the stuff of moving mountains. Because what if the mountain isn't that big?
So true. It's just so true. And I think that, at least for me, when as you're speaking about it, I'm thinking about, like, what is it? So what is it that worries me? And I think that I am getting better all the time at, so before I do a show, I used to get really worked up, and I used to spend like so much time setting up my computer, setting up my mic, setting, like thinking about it. And now I almost purposefully just get ready in the last half hour, run in, grab my water, run in, tell everyone to be quiet, close the door, hook up my computer, turn it on. And then I'm like, oh, hey, how are you? And so I used to plan out what I was going to say. I used to, and I had a fear. What if I forget what I was going to say? Right. And so when you say that, that's my what, like, what if I forget what I was going to say? So then I just quit planning it. I thought my guests are such dynamic, amazing people that we're never going to be at a loss for words. Like I'm going to want to ask so many questions and inquire so much that if I plan it out, it doesn't come from the heart. It's not organic. And that was something that kind of got me through this part. Well, then for a long time, I just did audio because I was like, wait, I've got to interact, and what if I don't look good, or what if something just doesn't go right and someone doesn't want to watch my show? And you just kind of start to go through all these things. You're like, that's just so dumb, because who cares? I did a show the other day, and I had no lashes, and it's like quarantine makeup.
Yeah.
It's fine. People aren't going to stop listening to me or because I didn't have the right makeup on or whatever. So it's kind of cool to like you say, just like smush things down into something super small and then like just blow it away or let it go.
It's like, oh, I love that imagery of just blowing it away like a dandelion.
Right. See, you put it on your hand and I keep thinking like you're just going to go, it's gone. I like that visual. Visuals are so good.
So good.
And yeah, so let's take that stage fright from like what you and I are doing to life. What areas of life do you see people struggling with that same type of fear as they're like, just everyday life?
I see it in how we speak about ourselves. A lot of times in people's language, I can hear them kind of apologizing for who they are when they have no need. And guilty of this myself too. I check myself on this all the time. And it's not to say that we should walk around, knocking everybody over and not saying, excuse me. It's just that we have a right to take up space too. I feel like a lot of times we simply don't show up at all because we're afraid, whether it is on social media or in our businesses or with our families where we should speak up because a certain thing is not working for us. Stage fright is not just for the stage. We could call it performance anxiety. We could call it a multitude of things, but it's just any time that fear stops you from taking a step. That's all it is. And it's present for all of us. One thing that really encourages me is that all of the people I look up to feel afraid at times.
Oh yeah.
Even years into their careers and their crafts, I mean, they still have moments where they feel afraid or don't feel like they nailed it or feel intimidated by something or someone, and they're still out there slaying, which means it's possible. It's possible to march straight through the fear, and it's also possible to kind of ball it up in your fingers and flick it away or blow it away, as you said so beautifully.
I think it was like Tom Hanks or someone like that who said that still after 500 and something, filmings, they still get super nervous before they get on stage. I think about what you're saying too, as one of the fears that I had at one time was speaking. I had this big conference that was scheduled, and I was one of 4 keynote speakers, and I was the only female, and I had some pretty sticky subjects to talk to couples about. And I remember just thinking, like, what if I just don't give them what they need? And I talked to a really good friend of ours who's a coach, and he does some speaking stuff, and he said, just be you. When you are aligned 100% of the time, it doesn't matter if you're speaking to one person or 10,000 people, it's the same message. It's you're just be aligned, just be you. You always have the answer when you're you, right? Like we're always trying to be something else or be as amazing as someone else or show up as someone else. And I think it's super important to realize that when we show up as ourselves, that it just comes through as authentic and real. And you always have an answer, or if you don't have an answer, that's okay too, because that's your answer. And I think about that on stage, and it's never really clicked, but it's kind of clicking with me right now. If you show up on stage as Sidonie, performing as Whitney Houston, or performing as, all these other people, you're still you being them, and it's you that draws the audience. It's you that captures them. It's when you're trying to be something else where maybe it doesn't come across right. Am I right?
I resonate. I 100% resonate with that. That is on the nose, because in show business, especially, you're rarely the only person who has played that role. And sometimes other people who play that role are also on the stage or also in the house, just in case you break your leg or there are so many brilliant people in the industry, in showbiz, and sometimes we get confused that our duty is to be like the best one. No, you're supposed to be the you one.
Exactly. Because what even is the best, right? I mean,
what even is the best? Yeah. It's art. It's not mathematical. You can't get, an A+. That's not how it works. And so the day that I decided that I was enough and that this version of The Bodyguard has me all over it, and that's what makes it super duper special. The fans are so sweet, because they come to every combination possible. They want to see everybody play all the different roles that they have on their roster, and they're really amazing at not putting down any performance or exalting one over the other, and just loving the different humans that embody this role. Because comparing myself to another woman has never made me sing better or dance better or kick higher or twirl faster. But relaxing into the version of it that I do is so rewarding for me and also for the audience. I know, because when people come to watch your show, yes, they're there for the information. Yes, they're there to have their lives changed, but they want to have their lives changed by you.
Right.
They came for it to be filtered through you. So the more authentically you are, the better.
Right. And I think that carries on to life too, because I know that there's no one like me, and I'm sure there's plenty of people that are glad about that. But like, I'm myself, and I could be called crazy or amazing or all these different things, but when it's a combination of just who I am, no matter what, people get served. It's when I'm trying to be something different, like when I'm trying to be what I think they want,
right,
then I get in my head, and then I'm not me. And so I think once you can like relax into who you are, it just becomes so beautiful. And I think of your and I's relationship, and how you were just you and I was just me. I get contacted on Instagram every day by people, but there's like 2 or 3 people, and that's it, who I've really connected with, and honestly, like, have plans to go visit in other countries, and like, I feel like you and I connected because in that little space that we were talking in, we were just us. Like, I don't even remember what it was that you did for a while. I'm like, wait, is she a coach? Is she an actress? Like, I had to go look, because you were just you, like, loving and serving me, and it was the same thing. And so I just think that's so important for people to remember, is when you can show up as you're 10 times more dynamic.
It really speaks to people because you're giving them permission to be themselves too. If I get on an audio message on Instagram and think, oh, they might think this is weird. Okay, I'm going to type something out instead. I don't think it serves anybody. I could just be my normal, goofy, silly self that is like, I'm so sorry if this is too invasive, but I like to talk into the Instagram, so here I am. And you kind of get a picture, a more clear picture of who I am, rather than thinking, okay, I don't know this person personally, so I need to write something that's very formal. It's not me. Why should I do that?
Well, I remember, I think this was over a year ago that we connected. And I remember getting in the car and a message coming up from you and me like getting excited to listen to and telling my husband, babe, my friend, I thought it was Sidonie. I called you that for a year and a half. My friend, Sidonie, has left me another message again. And he's just like, wait, well, I don't, and I'm like, no, you got to listen to her voice. I love her voice. And she's like, and she's going to tell me about Italy and tell me about, and it was just so funny because yesterday I said, oh, guess who I'm interviewing tomorrow? Remember my friend that used to live, and he remembered because that was just such a special thing. And you will find your tribe. You will find people who won't respond back to you or might think that's weird. And that's another thing is when you're aligned with yourself, you attract the people vibrate in that are meant to, and people vibrate out that aren't. And it's such a free way to live.
It's pretty great. Yeah. And what a time to be alive where it's so easy to connect with people all over the world who are like-minded. It's so cool. Your tribe doesn't have to be confined to people in your region because there's just a huge number of people who would resonate with your message and your vibe, and you can reach out to them on social media and maybe it'll click, maybe it won't, but it might, and that is so exciting.
You can like erase that stage fright part of what if it doesn't. It's okay if it doesn't, right? Because there'll be someone who does. So I wanted to ask you a question. If someone came to you today, or like all of our listeners are here listening, and we're in 17 countries, 5 continents, so this is like super universal. And I feel that we all suffer from some sort of stage fright in life. What would be something that you could leave with our listeners today that they could use, and whether it be the when and what or something else, what is one thing you could leave with them that they could start practicing today to start getting what they want by eliminating that stage fright?
I want to encourage all of the listeners out there that they're not alone in this. There is no requirement for you to conquer this today. There are some things that will fly away as soon as you identify them, and there are some things that you have to chip away at, and that's okay. I love when I identify what I'm nervous about, like if I think, oh no, what if that note is a little shaky, or what if my costume, what if I'm bigger than the other girls, and what are people going to think? I imagine if someone else was that, what would I think? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. I'd be looking at her smile in her eyes and be blown away by her performance, and I would have a great night. And so that is that's so encouraging to me, because I know that I attract people that are like me, that are actually caring and paying attention to the things that matter. And so I think if I saw a colleague or a stranger on stage, I would not be waiting for them to mess up. So why am I waiting for myself to mess up? I want to be just as kind to myself as I am to everyone around me.
So huge. And I always love when that advice has people turning back to themselves and looking back within themselves, because you cannot go wrong when you do that. So the other question I'd love to ask is there anything that you regret or would do different in your life looking back?
Ooh, well, I used to be kind of down in the dumps that I didn't start theater earlier, because like I said, when I wanted to start taking drama lessons when I was 9, my mom said no. And for years after that, I was like, oh man, I could be so much further along. I could be a better dancer by now. But my story is so cool the way it happened that I let all that go. First of all, parents are all out there doing the best they can. My mom saw that I could get hurt and she tried to protect me. And in the meantime, I picked up a really, really cool skill that I still market as part of my acting. Sometimes people call me for acting jobs because I play the violin. It's wild. And it's something that I could never have planned out. And so that's how I kind of look back. That was probably the biggest regret. And I've turned it around because it's been one of my biggest blessings. sometimes I wish I had started believing in myself sooner, but I bet you that now that I get to help other people, I've just hit some good bumps that I will never forget that I can pass along to them and maybe save them some trouble.
I love it. Okay, so I want you to tell me and our listeners how we can get in touch with you. Give us your website, any information you want to share so that people can reach out to you.
Well, you can find me on the internet at sidonie.live. It's spelled SIDONIE.live. And that's where you find all the stuff about my coaching. I'm coming out with a stage fright solutions program this week. Super duper excited about that. And links from there, you can find out where I'm performing. I'm going to be on tour soon. And I am one of those Instagram people. You can always find me on Instagram. Search Sidonie Smith. I'll be the one with the big hair.
It's so fun. Okay, well, thank you so much for being here. You've been such a blessing, and I am so happy that we finally got to meet face to face.
What a treat. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for listening to the Get What You Want podcast. If you loved it, please subscribe, share it with others, and leave me a review on Apple Podcasts. You can also visit me on my website at www.getwhatyouwantguru.com. Would love to hear from you. Now go create.